banks often refusing to lend, buying a home in the UK is an impossible dream for many of us.
We just can't get a mortgage, and around here the house prices are so high.
But a few brave, ordinary people are pursuing a radical solution to the problem.
Come on, baby.
Trying to build their own home from scratch.
I am asking whether he thinks I'm stupid or brave.
Maverick architect Piers Taylor and me, Kieran Long, are following 6 self-builders as they take on the biggest gamble of their lives.
I haven't got any option. You gotta do it, you gotta do it.
We'll try to help them create the dream home they long for.
Wow.
They need to be clever with their cash and creative with design.
So tell me what your reaction is to this.
I'm quite surprised. I'm quite liking it.
Or you get the whole section of the plane as a ready-made bit of building.
But each has their life savings at stake.
Oh, what have they done?
Little or no experience.
I've got some drawings, actually.
And a budget of less than £100,000 to spend.
How much money have you got left?
But it won't be easy.
No point crying over a cardboard cottage.
Tonight, we're following Tom and Zoe, a young couple who've taken the bold step of buying a plot of land on a Cambridgeshire housing estate.
It's a great feeling to know that I'm standing on the land I own and I'm about to build a house, and none of my friends have done that.
It needs to fit in on the outside, but they want it to be extraordinary on the inside.
Tell me how you want people to feel when they walk in this space.
I want them to be completely wowed.
But is it even possible to create a wow factor on a shoestring?
We're going to get to a stage where we're going to run out of money. It's as simple as that. So we have to get it within budget.
So,
And with wildly contrasting tastes,
some bits I like, some bits I don't.
That's beautiful.
will Tom and Zoe ever manage to finish the house of their dreams?
What about making the whole look like it's like a waterfall or something?
How tacky is that?
In the UK, it's incredibly tough for young couples to buy a decent-sized home. Now having to save for upwards of 6 years for a deposit, most will end up renting or sharing for years on end. I'm going to meet Tom and Zoe, who have decided that the only way to get a house at a price they can afford is to build it themselves. Both in their early 30s, Tom Allen and Zoe Godbold have lived together in a shared house for 3 years.
It would be really nice to get our own space, to actually feel like it's my house with my things.
They're now desperate for a place of their own.
We're building a house for ourselves, you know, for our
For the
future.
future, yeah.
Or the start of our future. It's doing something for us rather than anybody else. And you know,
Yeah.
that's what we've got the opportunity to do, and that's our plan.
They've managed to buy this small plot of land at the dead end of a housing estate in Cambridgeshire.
We completed about 6 weeks ago now, and so now we own it. We can obviously get in here and start clearing it.
It's a great feeling to know that I'm standing on the land I own and I'm about to build a house, and none of my friends have done that.
With a mortgage, they've managed to raise £90,000, which they hope will be enough to create a home to fulfil their dreams.
We've been together for 5 years, so we wanted to get a house built.
And finally to live together, so it will be fabulous to be able to get home, chuck my shoes down and sit on my own sofa having a beer in my own house. So it'll be great.
Tom has worked in the construction industry for over 10 years and has designed the home, but there is a catch. Planners would only allow him to construct a house that looked just like the ones around it.
It's got to fit in with the current area. I've spoken to planners and they've said that's really their only concern. They just want the house to just blend in and not stand out.
So, ordinary on the outside, but they want quite the opposite on the inside.
As you're coming through the front door, just have this amazing wow factor. Modern, contemporary design.
A stunning interior on a tight budget is a massive challenge. Achieving exactly what they've dreamt of will add huge pressure to the build and themselves.
You walk through the main oak door, fabulous kitchen, perfect lines, the tiles that we've chosen, it's all very chic.
The actual size of this house is just over the size of a double garage, and it does everything we need it to do.
Their ambition is inspiring, but everything on this plot is riding on the interior. They'll face a whole host of challenges to stop it feeling tiny and ordinary. With Tom out at work, I've come to meet Zoe on site.
This is our plot.
I need to understand just how big Zoe's dreams are for this little house.
So this will be the front door.
Tom and Zoe have had complete free rein to redesign their interior, but it feels decidedly ordinary. After a small entrance hall, there's a door that leads into the kitchen, and then it's onto an open-plan dining and living area. Upstairs, the rooms are even smaller, as they've chosen to have a bathroom and 3 bedrooms. They've opened up some areas, but I'm concerned it could still feel like any other cramped and boxy executive home.
Tell me how you want people to feel when they walk in this space. When they go through that door, what's the impression you want?
I want them to be completely wowed. For me personally, I can't stand boring standard ideas. If you go through to people's houses and they're fantastic, they've got different ideas, everybody goes, oh wow, it's amazing. And I would like that for myself, to know that I walk in and see that every night that I come home.
I'm worried how hard it will be for Tom and Zoe to build this ambitious first home together. Pulling it off will be tough on them, financially and emotionally.
Zoe, tell me why you and Tommy want to take on this project.
I grew up in a very modest background, if not poor, I suppose, really. And with 5 mouths to feed has been incredible difficulty for my parents growing up. And it was always chaotic and messy. So I've always had to settle, I suppose, for what's there. And this is the first time that all of those feelings and emotions, I suppose, can come together, and I can settle for what I want to settle for, as opposed to what I have to.
If Zoe's to get the house she's truly dreamt of since childhood, it's going to have to deliver high style on a minimum budget, and there's no room for failure.
I'm really excited about this because I think we can push Zoe and Tom to bring their own individuality out through a really rich interior that belies the fact that all of the buildings here look on the outside the same.
They bought the plot for £70,000 and are financing the work with a self-build mortgage. Tom's keen to move out of their shared house within 7 months. We'll have to work fast to persuade him there is any scope to improve the plans he spent months drawing up.
There's not too much you can do with it. At the end of the day, it's a 3-bedroom house, and this is what I feel is the best use of the space.
And they are at the limit of what they can borrow.
We've got to make sure that we don't overspend. We can't run out of money. We have to get it within budget.
So I'm meeting with architect and low-cost self-builder Piers Taylor. He's used to achieving high-end design on low budgets, but this is an issue that is relevant across the country.
If you can kind of crack this issue of the small family house being a wonderful place to live and entertain, then you've cracked something really important. The good thing about them is that they're already considering that this should be more open plan. So they're starting to think about how that interior can work better for them. But I think there's a lot further we can push them.
Yeah, but I think we're going to have to push it further, because actually a building like this, we're going to have to get every square inch to work as hard as it possibly can. I think it could be a really interesting case study about how to take the conventional suburban house and make it kind of amazing.
For one thing, Piers thinks Tom and Zoe should continue to expand the open-plan living room downstairs by removing as many walls as possible and opening out the hallway. So when you step through the front door, you're in a generous space where living areas are set out as zones rather than rooms. And upstairs, Piers wants to improve the layout to make the best use of the space. Their choice to have 3 bedrooms has created 3 small rooms and a dark landing and stairwell. Removing one wall can make a big difference, but we need to address more than simply the layout. We need to change the way they're thinking.
My worry about this is that Zoe sees the success of this interior as, you know, how many luxurious materials they can pour into it. And I wonder if there's another model we can suggest of giving them a wow factor that she so much wants.
I don't think it needs to be luxurious at all. I think it needs to be fun and quirky. So he needs to stop shopping and start designing. You know, people's, I suppose, in their desire to be different, they just rush out and start spending money. Whereas actually she needs to hold back and come and see some really fantastic things and start planning this strategically.
But we'll need to run to keep up on this build. On site, Tom's taking delivery of the timber frame.
I've spent a long time in preparation for this, you know, late nights staying at work, getting things finalised. It's really exciting. I say it's this week's really key for us.
As the frame goes up, so do the costs. Just the timber skeleton and foundations are a huge investment.
This accounts for about a third of the build, basically. So yeah, I want this bit to go well.
But this is only the beginning of their hard work on this project. I've been searching for an example of a house in a suburban setting that has solved some of the big challenges Tom and Zoe will be facing.
I was really determined to find a building that kind of transformed a suburban situation instead of just conforming to it in a way that Tom and Zoe have been forced to do. And this house, the Black House by Mole Architects, for me is a really great example of that.
This architect had the knowledge and time to argue the case with planners for his unconventional exterior.
This amazing black cladding takes its inspiration at the farm buildings of the area, the industrial buildings, and for me this building now acts as a kind of hinge point between the landscape and this suburban close. It's a building that really, really does transform this from just ordinary suburbia into something quite different.
Inside, the lesson for Tom and Zoe is that great interiors do not rely on luxurious, expensive materials. Clever choices resulted in this unique house, costing the same price per square metre as Tom and Zoe's.
This is just a really, really nice space, isn't it? What a lovely kitchen. These are regular IKEA units, which is the go-to kitchen for any architect's kitchen, I can tell you, but customised a little bit. Slightly different door handles, slightly different worktop here with laminated plywood. Nothing fancy about the materials. Some reconstituted plastic as a bit of a decorative feature here. Those things just make it look a bit different, a little bit sort of custom made, but basically the bones of it are the cheapest kitchen you can possibly buy. It doesn't matter how nice your kitchen cabinets are if you haven't made a beautiful space, and that's what this is.
Instead of spending on expensive fixtures and fittings, Zoe should be thinking about what the overall finish will be, like the simple, beautiful approach they've taken here.
This is just plywood, slightly washed white, not painted opaque, but you can still see the wood underneath. I mean, in fact, it's incredibly cheap, incredibly straightforward way to cover a wall.
This whitewashed ply can cost as little as £5 per square metre, half the cost of a traditional plastered and painted finish. But the beauty of this house is that it makes the most of one element that comes for free, but transforms interiors: light.
think what's really interesting here is that the architect has kind of opened up what is a fairly conventional envelope to give a sense of space. I think Tom and Zoe could do very similar things. They can open up bits of walls, allow it to borrow light from other spaces, which is exactly what's happening here. I've been really racking my brains as to what Zoe means when she says, I want the wow factor in my house. I think she wants something that isn't standard, it's not off the peg. The wow factor isn't about fancy materials, it's about allowing natural light in, it's about having a kind of openness. When you do sit there with your friends, you suddenly look around and think, wow, this just works, this is just right.
In Cambridgeshire, Tom and Zoe have the shell of their house almost complete, but it's devoured over £50,000. This means they've got less than half left for the trickiest part, creating the wow interior for their home. Piers is on his way to present our radical ideas to improve it.
I'm looking so forward to meeting Piers today to see what his thoughts are initially on the house and seeing what he thinks that we could do to improve it as well.
Yeah, can't wait to see what he can offer us.
Hi there.
Hi, Piers.
Must be Tom.
Yeah, how you doing?
How you doing? Good to meet you. Hi, Zoe. Hi.
But first we need to gauge how they'll react to new ideas. Inspired by the cladding at Black House, Piers is keen to find out how open-minded they are.
If there were no restrictions, what would you build here? And you didn't have to match this, what would you build?
I think we might have changed the colour of the brick.
Right.
Used a more sort of handmade rustic sort of sort of reddish brick. With the roof tiles, probably wouldn't have gone with like just a plain pan tile, maybe more of a plain tile.
What about you, Zoe? What would you build?
I think in this area, there's nothing flamboyant that you could build.
It is kind of curious that actually if you with no restrictions, it's interesting here that you would subtly change different brick, different tile, but actually, you could build it you could clad it in mirror, or you could clad it in lime green, polished, cladding, or you could tile it. You could do something that was really about you could make it yours, you could do something that was kind of strikingly individual.
We've got used to the fact that we have to have these bricks. And like Tom
Does that
said...
bother you though?
It's rules as well, what's right and wrong.
And it's still your home, I don't think it has to be just anything. Have you got your mobile phone on? Show me your mobile phone. I mean, look at it. It's like the
It's
most vibrant, zingy, amazing thing. And yet here we are, you're building something that's bigger than this, and yet you're saying, it's just a home. Who cares what it's like? So I think here that it's really, really interesting that, you guys can make something as a kind of, as a kind of flagship of how you can actually take something that is a very standard thing and make it amazing, make it unique, make it special.
Like many of us, Tom and Zoe are overwhelmed by what surrounds them, and it clouds their creativity. So what will they make of Piers' ideas for downstairs?
Okay, so let's go and have a look at the wow factor. Okay.
To Piers' delight, Tom's already decided to expand the open-plan living and dining area.
So look, this space looks great. I'd expected to see a wall here and a wall here, and 3 doors into your kitchen.
Yeah.
And you're not doing that?
No, we just thought, why do we need 3 doors into the kitchen?
This is an excellent break with convention, but we think he could go further.
I mean, why can't you leave this open? Why do you need to close that off? Being able to come in and not enter into a corridor, being able to enter into this space by being able to see through this would be fantastic. I think it makes a big difference to the way this space feels, being able to see into this.
But it's the finish and final look here that is as important as the layout. Tom's had an idea inspired by a recent holiday abroad.
When we went to New York, when I was looking at the apartments we could stay in, there were some that were really sort of jumping out at us, and they were the ones with the exposed brickwork and the industrial sort of look as well.
We thought about having it completely across there.
I worry that one wall of fake bricks won't feel wow. But will they be open to more radical cost-saving ideas?
why couldn't you actually expose this? You know, if this is New York loft, in all seriousness, you moved in here, you wouldn't put a ceiling in. You'd paint that and leave it.
But it still has to feel homely, I guess.
Yeah, it's difficult because we're looking at it from our own point of view, but also trying to maintain the resale point of view as well.
Yeah.
We don't mind scaring off a few people because we've gone quite modern with it.
It's not a good sign. Tom and Zoe seem to be creating a house that'll appeal to estate agents instead of a bold, individual home.
So, upstairs, you don't need this little single bedroom at the moment for a bedroom. You need it for your kind of office space, you know.
You do end up getting confined with convention. We just grow up thinking, yes, you need that third bedroom as a selling point into the house.
You know, you could, at the moment, just even have a much more generous landing area, which could be your computer space or something.
Yeah.
You know, rather than having to have a little bedroom. So arriving at the top of a kind of light-filled, spacious, you know, bit of the house, rather than into a little corridor with doors off it, would be much nicer. You know, don't put a door in and don't put a full-height wall here. So you could build a wall up to this height, but leave this open.
Yeah.
And, you know, in future, if your estate agent tells you that this needs to be a bedroom, then you can complete this wall and put a door in. But for the moment, I mean, I think you should leave it as open plan as possible up here.
Tom and Zoe are falling into a classic trap, compromising their design because they're worried about resale. But if done right, an individual home can be a more attractive proposition to potential buyers. I want Piers to show them why it's worth taking the gamble to make their home as unique as possible.
So I brought you to this house in London. It's called the Hidden House.
This desirable property is one of the best inexpensive one-off interiors of recent years.
Okay, so here we are. First thoughts?
Some bits I like, some bits I don't.
The lines are what we're looking for, I think.
It's not a dissimilar size to your main living space here.
No.
They're used to thinking about buildings as quite ordinary things where you choose one front door over another or one lamp over another. This whole vision of the way of living is totally different. The whole ethos of this building is totally different. So I want to get them to realise that they really can do something that's very, very special.
The thing to remember in this house is that all these materials are low cost. There's nothing other than just very sensible, straightforward, interesting ways of doing things. I really, really like this wall. I think it's really successful. I like the way that it makes this space seem bigger than it is. It allows them to incorporate domestic clutter and not hide it away.
A bespoke shelving unit, skillfully made from inexpensive MDF and OSB boarding, creates usable space out of every inch of this wall, and zones areas.
And I really like the way it forms this seating area at the end.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I could see us incorporating something like this in ours.
Yeah.
My concern is how can we fix it to the frame, or how do we... But I'm sure there's a way we can get around that.
But moving on to this bit, the other side of this, which is the kitchen, it's very, very cheap. Low-grade, industrial material that's lacquered. And this is very, very simple and affordable. And very clean, really.
I'm not a fan of the OSB.
Yeah.
But it does actually look really good, even though I don't like the material.
What about you, Zoe? What do you think?
I'm quite surprised, I suppose. It really works, and I love that there.
This is really cheap. I know you're not really big on OSB board. You could use metal, you could use anything to do this. But I really, really like the way it actually defines this whole seating zone. Otherwise it's just a table and chairs floating around in this space.
Making this space different is what makes it special. We need Tom and Zoe to stop making safe, conventional choices if they're to have a unique home.
Okay, so let's go upstairs. And the stairs it's very straightforward, but very, very simple. Very clean again, no clutter. But you have a really interesting stairwell. And I think the most important thing is to keep it really simple through
Absolutely.
there. And use one colour ideally on everything and not have skirtings and all those sorts of things.
It will probably be quite difficult not to have skirting.
Yeah. Because of the detail in your stairs.
Detail and Tommy. He likes traditional.
Maybe the way to do it is not to think about whether it's traditional or not. Don't talk about style, but just say, Tom, if you do that, it's going to make the whole house seem so much smaller than it actually is. And we've got to find a way to make it seem big and bright, and this is how we'll do it.
I have tried that. I have tried that.
Tom's steeped in the background of building houses, and he thinks houses are ordinary things with picture rooms and bricks and skirtings and architraves and carriage lamps outside. I am worried because I think it's the kind of beginnings of a kind of standard executive box, and actually it isn't going to transform into something extraordinary.
Six months into this long and demanding build, the exterior is almost complete. But as money gets tighter, Tom is trying to cut back on hired contractors and is taking on as much of the work inside as he can. He's working around the clock.
I was doing this at about 11 o'clock last night, and now I'm doing it again tonight. When you build your own house, it does consume you because there's a lot of decisions you need to make, and you start to live and breathe it. Sometimes things cost more, so it's just weighing up all of the advantages and disadvantages of everything you do.
By doing the tiling, Tom has already saved £1,000 downstairs. It's money Zoe can put back into the interior, but she's at a loss at what to buy.
The project's always been about the wow factor, and when you walk in, it's something completely different from outside on the estate. The more that we move forward, the more it's a struggle to find the wow factors.
They've agreed to make changes to the wall in the hallway, but they're consumed by this exhausting build, and it's becoming harder to bridge their differences on the rest of the finishes. Piers is back on site.
Hi guys.
Hi Piers.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Wow, look at this. Look at that. Wow. Gosh.
It's work in
Fantastic.
progress.
Looks great. So it really feels like a blank canvas now.
But even after seeing some very different approaches at the Hidden House, Tom isn't keen to change the way they'd originally planned to finish the rooms.
Tell us what you are going to do here. What's your plan for this room?
We're going to leave it as it is. Industrial look, you know.
Well, it kind of, you know, I mean, in some ways it wouldn't be too bad. I mean, my worry was that I was going to come in here and find a brick slit wall up here. Which, is that, where are we with the brick slits?
We're, in all honesty, we're back thinking about it because after all the other things that we saw, it still works.
I worry that it'll make the room seem smaller than it is, and it'll somehow kind of suck the life out of this place. I mean, there's so much brick. They're a symbol of the past. At the moment, you know, you turn up and the house is still like the one next door, and I think you need something really bold in here. And you could actually just use colour. You could paint the whole wall a glossy orange or something.
What about making the whole wall look like it's like a waterfall or something? Do you ever been to the Guinness factory?
No. How tacky is that?
Done in a decent way.
It's just, it makes me cringe.
Zoe doesn't like it.
In a last-ditch attempt to break the deadlock, Piers is going to show them the world of options that are available. He's taking them to the Surface Design Show, an annual exhibition of contemporary materials for use in the home.
What I want to show them is that there's a world of colour, texture, and really interesting, bright and amazing things. I just want to find half a dozen things that may inspire them to do something out of the ordinary.
Even with their budget dwindling fast, Piers thinks they can achieve a wow interior with just a handful of striking design ideas.
have that kind of purple, a wall of purple panels like that. You could do something like that. You know.
That's quite interesting.
Interesting. No, me too.
Bark cloth.
Well, it's actually, it looks like suede.
You'd have that in a jacket, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I quite like this. So for your screen next to your entrance, you could do that. I think Zoe, left to her own devices, would go mad.
With that wall, that's a structure in a minute, so we'd have to try and work something up to support it.
I just look at the aesthetic side of it, thinking, I like that, I want it. Tommy will say, no,
work.
you have to
It's just got to work for building rigs, so as long as it does, then
this will work for building rigs. I don't want them to settle for anything that's second or third best in this place when it could be amazing.
Piers has spotted an alternative finish to replace the brick surface they'd planned for the living room.
I think it's very beautiful, this.
I like it.
Good.
Do you like it?
you'd have to prove to me it works.
Yeah.
Tom's right. At over £150 a square metre, the honeycomb aluminium is way out of their price range. But the key to this visit is finding something they like. Piers can then search for a low-cost alternative.
Something that really transforms that whole space, something really kind of bold and striking. I think you do need.
You walk in and that would be, oh wow, what is that?
Yeah, exactly.
It would look amazing.
Yeah, I'm not convinced on that one. Like, as it, cost at the minute is 5 times more than we were looking at for that wall.
I agree.
Definitely.
But the excitement of the shopping trip is short-lived. It's a stark reminder of how difficult finding inexpensive finishes and materials can be. Both working full-time, Tom and Zoe's evenings are spent scouring the internet late into the night, searching for something special.
Because we're trying to do the build for under 100,000, you always have to think, do I really want that one, or could I find something that looks like it but maybe be cheaper? And it's incredibly difficult to make a wow factor from your local high street DIY companies. It's very difficult. So it's quite disheartening sometimes after spending 5 hours, 6 hours trawling the internet for something cool, and it just is to no avail because of the price.
Getting this home right means a lot to Zoe. Her mother became very sick when she was a child, and the resulting move to a modern, more suitable house had a lasting effect.
The first house that I ever lived in was an old farmhouse, so it was quirky, I suppose. And then moving into a brand new house, it was just like everybody else's house, and that's what you get from them, I suppose. It was magnolia walls, and I'm dying to get some colour into my life, really.
Tom and Zoe need to keep their focus, otherwise their efforts over the last 4 months will have been wasted. I've come to see how the house is shaping up.
They've got the house up there, it sits, it's not trying to stand out for itself, it's just trying to be part of this world. The more I walk around this house, the more worried you get that Tom and Zoe really haven't been able to push the boundaries. And we know they had limited resources and they had this existing planning permission. They had quite a lot of constraints here, but I'm worried that inside they're also going to have succumbed to the idea of just becoming conservative, because that's what gets things done quickly.
They've still got a massive task ahead to make this interior stand out. But it's good to see that they've gone with Piers' suggestion to maximise the sense of space by opening up the area between the hall and the living room.
Breaking this wall means that when you're sat in this space, you have a sense of something beyond. You're not confined, and that openness is really nice. We don't need these compartmentalised rooms and lobbies anymore, because we have double glazed windows framed in plastic that keep drafts out.
But upstairs in the 2 main bedrooms, you certainly don't get the same sense of space. They're just 89 square metres, This house is about the same size as any new build home in the UK, so it's crucial they maximise every bit of it.
There's so many challenges here. I mean, I really hope Tom and Zoe don't have too much furniture, because to be honest, there's nothing you can fit in here. Barely a double bed, a couple of side tables, and maybe a wardrobe in this area here. I mean, you really have to live quite minimally, and maybe that's what they're going to have to embrace.
With Tom and Zoe back from work, I want to find out how they're feeling about the project.
As the house started to come together, as we started to look at, dining room tables and sofas, so plumbing, electrics, carpentry, all of the main bits have been done now.
So how much of your kind of mental energy is spent on this place? So you think about it all the time.
As soon as I wake up, I'm always thinking about the house. What can I achieve in this space? How can I achieve that for the minimal amount of money, but it will still look a luxurious finish? The only time when I don't think about it is when I'm at work, because I just can't spare that time.
I think Zoe's a really amazing person. She's young, she's really ambitious, she has all the right ideas and motivations about making a house for herself. She sees it as an important kind of moment in her life to move into this place. You just want the building to reflect that somehow. And from the outside now, I'm afraid it really doesn't. This could be anybody's house. The question is, what can they do on the inside that will really make it into theirs?
We need to act fast to find alternative materials they can afford and persuade Tom and Zoe to try them. Tom liked the idea of metal at the Hidden House and at the Surface show, so Piers is heading to one of his favourite type of suppliers.
We're at a small independent sheet metal supplier. And this is like a sweet shop packed full of extraordinary metal. And I often come to places like this to find materials to incorporate in my projects. So what I'm hoping to do today is to pull out a whole lot of interesting materials and just say, look Tom, here it is, what do you think? These are actually free, they're just offcuts chucked in a bucket, and you can use these all sorts of things. If you do want splashbacks in your kitchen or bathroom, you can use them. You can use them instead of tiles, you can use them to cover doors with.
Piers has used practically every type of metal here as a low-cost building material.
That's aluminium. It has a coating on it that protects it from getting scratched and so on. This is steel checker plate, mild steel checker plate that is used for things like submarine floors and stairwells in industrial buildings. I've often used this type of material in projects, in really actually high-end projects, and the people that you do it for don't know that this is actually a really low-grade material that is incredibly cheap. They just see something that's very beautiful, and actually in the case of a kitchen, very practical because it lets the air circulate through.
There are large sheets of galvanised steel. Getting a material like this into Tom and Zoe's house would make it unique.
It's mild steel that is zinc coated to protect it, and the galvanising has a really nice grain. This is probably about £17 a square metre or less, and incredibly durable and incredibly quick to fix, and looks fantastic.
This steel could be sourced and mounted for about the same cost as a conventional wall finish.
It's very cheap, this material. You don't usually see it in houses, but if you do, it's just so original, interesting, and good value.
Piers has brought the metal back to the house. It's certainly low cost, but will he be able to persuade Tom to use it as a surface?
This stuff is very workable, so you could get it folded into a bench quite easily. And what I think you could do is use this at the top of the wall and at the bottom. Then this perforated metal here as a seat that wraps down this wall and folds out and becomes that bench. This is so easy, this stuff. This is all around the country, a little independent steel fabrication shops that have shelves full of this stuff.
And, you know, you get a sheet of this, stick it on your roof of your car, bring it back, and it needs no work. It doesn't need finishing, doesn't need pointing.
This is really helpful.
Yeah.
Because being able to touch and feel it,
Yes.
you know, gives you a better sense of how it's going to work in the room. And if we make it, it's going to be unique. It puts our stamp on the house.
I feel you've really understood that the way to doing a really inventive, unusual, low-cost and fantastic house is to improvise with these kind of materials.
Yeah, we should be doing something like this.
Fantastic. Now you are.
Yes. I like the metal. We'd started to look at it after the surface show, and obviously I'd only been looking online, so it's nice for Piers to be able to bring stuff here and actually sort of touch and feel it. It's been a great help to us, certainly when I'm busy during work, so it's nice that somebody else is there sort of helping us out really.
For me, this is incredibly exciting because I've seen a real transformation. I really feel we've turned a corner. I think they're going to do this. They get it.
While Piers is beginning to make progress with Tom as far as materials go, I've got to find a solution to another of their big problems, their lack of space. The big challenge for Tom and Zoe is how they carve beautiful, interesting spaces out of that completely standard exterior envelope. And the only way they're going to be able to do that is by opening up and allowing the spaces to connect and have views across and just take on many different functions at the same time. Inside a warehouse-style development in London is one of the most inventive ways of creating additional usable space I've ever seen. They created this because they suddenly needed an extra room. This addition was necessary basically because this was a family who unexpectedly grew. They had twins and needed a new room. Now there was no chance, because this is an apartment really, to extend outwards or upwards, so they sort of in a way have extended inwards, and that would normally be a big problem because subdividing flats is, you know, always leads to mean spaces. But here, because they kind of projected this piece out over the living space, you got quite a cosy little living area and then this spectacular new room. So it's spatially ingenious, but it also has this incredible kind of playful creativity with decoration. This extraordinary structure has not only added a bedroom, but also transformed the space. It was created for less than £20,000. Well, it's an amazing little kind of cubby hole up here really, enough room for a double bed, quite a lot of storage, wardrobe, some shelves here, and then a small desk area. It really is kind of, you know, cramming a lot into this tiny space. It sort of feels a bit like a very elaborate tree house or something like that. It's really, you sort of get a really nice feeling up here. There's a lot that's really clever about this space. You've got this kind of structure made of two sheets of plywood glued together, and they form kind of structural ribs almost. Cut using a laser controlled by a computer. It's quite a recent technology. So all of this decoration, of course, you know, would have been incredibly expensive to achieve by hand. You couldn't have done it, but with a computer-controlled machine, you can do it relatively inexpensively. I think the lesson for Tom and Zoe is many-fold from something like this. First of all, be ambitious. Just because you've got a standard interior doesn't mean you can't do something absolutely extraordinary if that's what you want. You don't have to have conventional rooms. There are sometimes other solutions. So I think, yeah, that's really important for Tom and Zoe to think about. They've got this standard interior. How could they be ingenious and open up new views and new spaces they can really use? Back at his low-cost self-built home in Wiltshire, Piers is working on some last-minute ideas that could still help Tom and Zoe maximise space upstairs.
So the conventional house building model is to put a full ceiling in here and have a whole lot of space that is unusable up in the roof. Tom and Zoe sensibly have taken out that. But what I want to do is find a way of maximising this space, because it's fine to take the ceiling out and they have a sense of space, but what about the actual, tangible, physical, real space they can use? This is Zoe's getting ready room. This is the floor area. I think this is too small to have a double bed in it. If I was to draw on
the usable space that's left once you've got a bed in, it's that. It isn't enough space. But actually, if you took the bed and put it up into the lofty space they've gained by taking out the ceiling, it will transform that room. I mean, for me, this is a funny space you need to shuffle around. Without the bed, it becomes a big, open, lofty space with an interesting and quirky bed. I don't think they're going to use this bed very often anyway. Occasionally they'll have people to stay. And it just feels such an underutilised resource, that space up there.
After 7 months of trips to site and tireless late nights sourcing online, Tom and Zoe are on their last push to move in. Zoe needs to ensure that she gets every detail of their first home together just right.
Every decision in this house has been quadrupled, checked and thought over. With every idea that you have, you always think, is it the safe option? Your mind automatically goes to, can we really do that? It's a bit out there. And you have to really remind yourself of what type of decor you're trying to achieve.
Just choosing a door handle has been a painstaking task.
All of these tiny pieces, to me, makes an incredible amount of difference. We could have had this with a rounded edge. We're going for square with everything. We've gone for square architrave and skirting board, so it made sense to have the square finish. Because if you've got just standard silver handles that every other new modern build has got, just it doesn't give it any character. So that's why it's taken 4 to 6 months to just pick this one.
Zoe set out with very fixed ideas for this interior. Deviating from them hasn't been easy.
When it's a whole house that you've built from scratch and you've had ideas before, and then those ideas keep changing and evolving, it can be quite difficult to pinpoint exactly what you want. This wall is not going to be brick slip, and that was supposed to be the colour in here, so we've had to change our minds with what we want to do with it.
So will Zoe be open to another last big intervention from Piers for her getting ready room?
I'm not sure quite where he's going with this. Oh, I see. So move the bed up into a platform. That's interesting. The one hesitation that I have is that when you're walking into the room, the vaulted ceiling would be completely gone from your vision. So that's where I'm slightly hesitant to the idea. I love the pink ladder.
She likes elements of it, but will Zoe decide to adopt his space-making idea or not? At least Tom, on the other hand, finally has a plan for the main living room wall. He's decided to go for a storage solution inspired by the Hidden House, possibly even incorporating metal. And it starts with buying cheap, off-the-peg items that he can model into his own bespoke creation.
I've drawn it, looks like it's going to work. All we're doing is just combining a few storage cupboards to make it look like it's a built-in feature wall rather than just a few shelves up. So if it looks good, it could really set that room off. We've spent so much time and effort on everything else, it'd be silly just to have something, just at the last minute just go, well, that'll do. So we're just trying to keep that effort going all the way through the project. These shelves,
Yes.
can you buy just literally the shelf? No. So we're just taking the shelves from these and putting them into these holes. It will work.
Theoretically, it'll work.
There you go. Lovely.
I think that that's great for under £200. However, if it doesn't look as it should, I'm worried then we've just wasted £200. It could just ruin the whole look of the house in one hit, really, and I think that's my biggest fear.
begins yet another late-night DIY project, they have all the pieces they need to create their first home together. But will it be the one that Zoe dreamed of? 9 months ago, Tom and Zoe started to build their first home together. Just the size of a double garage and with a tight budget, their biggest challenge was making it feel unique, spacious and light. Forced to build a standard house on the outside, they were attempting to create an unconventional dream home. So, inside, have they managed to make the ordinary extraordinary?
Wow, I think that's great.
I can guarantee you right now that this is not the same as any of the other houses on your close, is it? I mean, the idea that you just opened all of this up and not divided it into a tiny dining room and a tiny lounge and a tiny kitchen, this feels like a generous, open plan, modern space.
The first thing that strikes me is how big it feels. And actually you've done that with really clever thinking by leaving things out. I remember when we went to the Hidden House, that's something that building did very well.
The Hidden House was probably the biggest inspiration we had when we went round to look at all the different things. We've just personalised it and just made it our own and just put our own twist on it.
I thought with the feature wall that it would make it quite small, but in fact it's given us so much more space. It's a really lovely size.
Upstairs, the challenge to make it feel special was even greater. Piers encouraged them to remove partitions and doors that would allow light through the house.
I'm going to go look upstairs.
This feels great. First thing that strikes me is how light and bright it all is.
By taking things out, not only does it feel better and bigger, it's also cheaper. So within this staircase, there's an exercise in simplification. By taking away handrails and having more space, it feels a lot more generous, a lot bigger than it actually is. There isn't a flat ceiling above me, making this room seem really oppressive. There isn't a door here. It's got this great hole in the wall, which borrows light from that window down into the stairwell. So it all feels much bigger. None of these things that we're looking at have cost any more money. In fact, they save you money and they gain you space. So I think this would be more valuable than a conventional 3-bed house.
So this is where you've really had some serious design input, both of you, isn't it? I mean, this wall.
The colours came from when we went to the Surface show. It makes it really vibrant, so when people come in, it looks fresh, it looks exciting, but just create that wow factor, but without the price tag.
Instead of sheet metal, they found their own rubberized alternative, usually used for flooring. I can tell by touching it this is another substitute.
It's got the same look, it's more comfortable to touch, and actually that was only about 40 quid. Going to places like the Surface show and just looking around at what other people have done, magazines, it's really down to your own sort of imagination and your own creativity as to what you can actually do with things.
And the rest of it is quite understated. I mean, it's nice to have that mix, isn't it, between something that is a bit theatrical and is where all your ideas are, and then just let everything else be quite calm.
It's great.
And have you had any reaction from friends? Do they go wow when they walk in here like you wanted them to?
Some comments that I've received have been, oh, I could never afford this. It's a beautiful house, and it's like, actually, you can achieve it. And it's phenomenal what you can do if you just put your mind to it, let your imagination go.
Having saved money with off-the-peg items, they did spend on a few high-quality ones in their kitchen, such as the worktop. All along, Tom and Zoe never let their high standards slip, or stop searching for a deal. Tell me how much you spent on this kitchen. How much did this cost?
The kitchen was £5.5, I think.
Right. If the kitchen cost £5.5 grand, how much did your wall cost, do you reckon?
The wall cost, the unit's about 200 quid, paint 20 quid maybe.
So, 300 quid, say, for to do that wall, that seems like pretty good value for the effect that you get.
Creating usable pockets of space was a priority for Zoe, who wanted a tranquil dressing room and a place to relax upstairs. And she's done it. Simple techniques to maximise the room and adopting cheap, effective finishes, Zoe has created her own unique space, and it's exactly how she wants it.
So for a while I was hung up on wanting to extend that platform over this space and use it to gain extra usable space. You haven't done that.
I love the idea of it, but the biggest factor for me is when you walk through the door, you see the big vaulted ceiling and get the airy space. And I just felt it would then take that away from it.
I think you're absolutely right not to have done it. Coming in here, this feels so spacious, and I think with that platform, however interesting it was, however useful it was, I think it would have cluttered up this space. So this wall, you haven't used metal that was probably £50 a square metre. You found your own metal paint. So probably again, for 15 quid, you've transformed that wall. Where did the ladder come from?
You can get these on an online auction for about £15-20.
Wow. So 15 quid for that ladder and a bit of pink paint, and you've transformed this space.
Yeah.
You've taken a quite ordinary, standard 3-bedroom house and you've made an amazing environment that feels utterly different from any standard 3-bedroom house I've ever been in. And I love the fact that you haven't hung the mirror, you've just put it on the floor, because again, that feels lofty.
Tell Tommy that. he wanted
to hang it.
He did. He was saying, "Oh, I can mount that." I was like, "No. I want it as a floor mirror." So
no,
it's just beautiful. Yeah.
No stranger to house building, Tom knew what he was doing, but still put every hour he could into the build. He fitted all of Zoe's little touches and embraced many new, unconventional ideas.
This is really quite a spectacular finish. It must be really satisfying to see that sort of come off.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, it costs us about £150 for just the tiles. It's well worth it, and I'm really pleased with actually how well it's actually come out. But yeah, the actual pattern is Zoe's design. She actually sort of spent a good couple of days laying them all out.
Have you got a different attitude to materials and building now than you did before?
I think the process of this build and what we've seen has opened our eyes to there's more out there than just what you can find in the local sort of hardware store or sort of local merchant.
Creating such a special first home together has been an incredible challenge on their tight budget.
So you and I have spoken a few times about this interior, and have you succeeded in getting that wow factor that you've been looking for?
Yes, just love it so much, and what we've done inside, it doesn't feel like it should be a home. It feels like it should be a show home or somewhere that you're taking me to visit. So it's quite a weird feeling, really.
When you think back to the houses you've lived in your life, does that make this house all the more special?
This is really nice. Coming out of rented accommodation, this is my house. So it's really nice to feel grounded here. And that's the one thing that I've absolutely loved about decorating the rooms, is that you can have your own colours, whatever you want. It's not just a building that we're just making, it's now our home.
And what about you and Tommy? How has your relationship borne the strain of all of that?
I'm quite surprised we're still together. To be honest, it's more stressful than a wedding. Oh my goodness, it's tough. Yeah, he's done really well through this.
The critical question for me, one of the ones I really want to know the answer to, is: have you managed to build this house for less than £100,000?
Yes, we have. Yeah, I think we're about 90.
90,000. That's really astonishing achievement for the space you've got.
Yeah. The foundations of the frame was about 40, something like that. Brickwork was about 8, and then the interior fit out was another sort of third.
So about 30 grand for this interior. I mean, that's really astonishing. Some people spend that on their kitchen. I mean, you've done a whole house for that. I mean, that's quite an achievement.
I think it's been really tough. We've really been careful with how we've purchased items, which is the key to being able to spend that little amount on such amazing looking items.
You get out the house what you put into it, and all the time and effort we put in we're now getting the rewards from it.
friend's house.
Yes, amazing.
What's great about this house is that it has the right type of wow factor. It isn't full of gimmicks and features. It's the whole space. When you can take a building like this and transform it into an environment this good, that has to be something we should be encouraging people to do up and down the country.
They've rewritten the rules of what a suburban house can be. This so-called wow factor was not really about impressing their friends. It's actually her feeling like she's expressed her creativity in a way that leaves some of their personality in that house.
There's a lot of stress and strain that goes into the build, but you know, it shows how strong you can be as a couple. And you know, I'd definitely recommend it to anybody.
It's really overwhelming actually to be standing here now with it finished, living in it. It really makes me so proud of ourselves.
Next time, we're in West Wales, where Jane and Andy are risking everything by going back to nature while building a home.
As has been my dream since I was probably about 16, to be as self-sufficient as I can.
But with a staggeringly small budget of less than £10,000.
Just bring on your tap, we'll make a house out of it.
And the elements against them.
Why did I leave that nice house in Sheffield? Central heating would be wonderful.
Are they attempting the impossible?
I just wonder how they're ever going to make any progress.
Are you planning to build the home of your dreams from scratch for less than £100,000? Or are you even partway through? If so, we'd love to hear your story. Please visit bbc.co.uk/beonashow.
Country that's faced colonialism and war. Dan Snow's History of Congo is next on the BBC Two, while over on BBC Four now, the reality of childbirth in the Middle Ages, medieval lives, birth, marriage and death.